Hey, Ralph, can you hear me? Oh, there you go. Never mind.
Yes.
Okay, I was just checking to see, we've got all the board members, nobody's having challenges. I see Superintendent Rakedall just joined.
You all are controlling our audio video once we get started on your end?
Ralph, did you hear Superintendent Rakedall?
Yeah. Yes, you have control of your own mic as a panelist, and same with the webcam.
Okay.
Ralph, that sunshine it won't run away from me.
Keeps moving around.
It's following me. I can't get it to, every time I move a little, I have a little more problem. It's hard to run from the sun. All right. Here you go.
Dr. Wright, what is the mood on that campus right now? All we get is the occasional article about COVID spread.
There's actually not a lot of students on campus. They're in Pullman, but they're doing it remotely. But yeah, we've had about 400 cases in the last 9 days.
Okay, I have a little after 9 o'clock. I'm going to mute myself and then go ahead and pull the registration reports. And both Krishari and Angus have organizer controls, so I'll be momentarily blacked out here. So Commissioner and Krishari and Tammy, it's all yours.
Great. Thank you, everyone. I want to welcome everyone to the September 1st Board of Natural Resources meeting. It's a little hard to believe we are in September, but I know the professors and the superintendent are well aware of it, although it does feel very abnormal for all of us, especially for each one of you. First, I want to do introductions of board members, and I think what I'm going to do is start with being right, and then just name another board member afterwards. This will help you know you can still remember your colleagues after not seeing them for a while.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Andre Wright. I'm Dean of the College of Agricultural, Human, and Natural Resource Sciences at Washington State University.
Pick your better day, right? I moved it. Okay.
I picked quick.
Okay, sorry, I can't. Your audio is a little tough there, Dr. Wright. Chris Rakedall, Superintendent of Public Instruction. Thank you, everyone, for being on this, and I will throw this to Jim Cahill.
Hi, Jim Cahill with the Office of Financial Management, Senior Advisor Assistant to the Governor. Back to Hillary, or Commissioner Peach.
Good morning, this is County Commissioner Bill Peach from Palm County.
And is Professor Brown, are you there, Dr. Brown? Ralph, I'm checking in. Do we have Dr. Brown on?
Commissioner, this is Angus. We're just checking through the register.
Yeah, that's fine. I didn't hear Dr. Brown, so I just wanted to confirm he's on. I don't see his. Okay, did he?
He is on, and he is self-muted at the moment. So.
Okay, all right. Well, I'm Hillary Franz, Commissioner of Public Lands, and Dr. Brown, when he is not muted, is present and will be speaking, I'm sure, at some point. With that, I'm going to turn it over to webinar briefing by Tammy.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the September 1st Board of Natural Resources meeting via webinar. My name is Tammy Kellogg, and I'm your board coordinator. I'm going to take a few minutes this morning to go over how this webinar is planned to run today. Many of you are likely familiar with the structure of the Board of Natural Resources meetings. This webinar is structured to largely match our traditional board meetings. That said, there are some key differences. There are a couple of different ways people are attending today. Some of you have called into the meeting and are listening on your phones. This is the listen-only option for the meeting. Many of you have logged into the webinar through your computer or mobile device and are able to see and hear the presentation and conversations. If you did log in through the webinar, you also had the opportunity to sign up to make public comment during the comment periods for today's meetings, or you have the option to just listen. If you check the box that you want to provide comment, your name was registered on a list and you'll be called upon during the comment period. Currently, a list is being compiled of the names of individuals who would like to provide comments today. Once this list is completed, it will be forwarded to Commissioner Franz, and she will call on you when it is your turn to speak. Minutes to 3 minutes. There are several of us working behind the scenes today, such as Ralph Johnson. Ralph is in charge of many things, not the least of which is unmuting you when it is time to speak. Please be aware that if you're an attendee, your microphones will be muted during the meeting. If you sign up to speak, or organizer will unmute you so that you can provide comment. In contrast, board members have control of their microphones throughout the meeting. If you are on the telephone listening or have technical difficulties, if you registered wrong or are having trouble figuring out how to register to speak at any of the public comment periods, we do have an email set up where you can request assistance. You're able to email Kenny at kenny.ocker@dnr.wa.gov. That's Kenny, Kenny, .ocker@dnr.wa.gov. Kenny's email address is also at the bottom of this slide and is also listed at the bottom of the instructions for attending the meeting that are posted online. I now hand this back to you, Commissioner Franz, for the next item on the agenda.
Thank you, Tammy. Thanks so much. So first up on the agenda is approval of the meeting minutes for July 7th, 2020. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Okay, we had a motion and a second. All those in favor of the approval of the July 7, 2020 meeting minutes, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Brown, University of Washington, and I say aye.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. It's good to also see you, Dr. Brown. Great. Next up, we have public comments for general items. I have asked Ralph to take his time to make sure that, not knowing how many people are signed up to speak, to take his time to make sure we get all of the public comments. People who have signed up in the right order is they have signed up, so we don't have any glitches like we had a few months ago. So I'm going to ask people just to be patient. It's better to get it right than get it wrong. So if you hold on, we'll try to get those over as quickly as we can.
Okay, I just sent the report.
Ralph, I love it. You test my eyesight. Okay. Very helpful. Thank you, Ralph. Okay, first up on public comments. Is items of general interest, and we have first up is Brian Nelson, followed by Pedro Valverde. And Ralph, again, I ask every member of the public to keep it to 2 to 3 minutes. We have a lot of people signed up for public comments today. Ralph, I'm going to have you be the time checker if you can, and we can begin. Brian Nelson, followed by Pedro Valverde. Is Brian Nelson there?
Can you hear me all right?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, my name is Brian Nelson. I'm from Gold Bar. I'm asking part of the group that is trying to get Snohomish County to reconvey some land out near Gold Bar in the Reeder Forest. I'm asking the board to delay voting on Middle May for 6 months. DNR's Middle May notice of timber sale specifies that roadwork, rock calling, and forest product calling will not occur between November 1st and March 31st to reduce soil damage and siltation. And roadwork associated with bridge installations, of which there will be 5, shall occur between July 1st and October 1st. If the sale goes through in October, the contract, at least as far as DNR said in the Middle May information sheet, was the contract is scheduled to start in November. So the buyer will have to wait until April to start working on the small stretch of road out to May Creek, which is already there and will just need some improvements. Then they will have to wait until July to start work on the bridge over May Creek. Any buyer will have to put in that bridge to even access the vast majority of the 5 to 6 miles of road to be built and all of the harvest units. A 6 months delay would put the sale in April with contract starting in May, and the buyer would still have to wait 2 months to start building the May Creek Bridge. A 6 months delay will minimally impact the timber harvest timeline if the sale still ends up going through. Beneficiaries don't receive any funds from timber sales until the contract is complete, which the notice of timber sale says expires March 31st. So that's up to 4 years out before the beneficiaries get anything from the sale. I'm asking please delay the Middle May timber sale approval for 6 months to give us time to explore all the concerns associated with reconveyance and options. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Pedro Valverde. Pedro, are you there?
You still have me as the speaker.
Ralph?
I show Mr. Valverde as being an active microphone.
Okay. Mr. Valverde? All right. I wonder, he's not on mute then?
No.
All right, let's do this. I'm going to move to Carol Price, followed by Beverly Parsons. And if Mr. Valverde is able to come back on, we'll bring him back on. Carol Price?
So I don't show Ms. Price as being an active attendee.
All right. I have her signed up to speak for public comments for general items of interest. All right, Beverly Parsons, followed by Pamela Keeley. Ralph, do you see Beverly Parsons?
Yes, and I show that she's self-muted.
Okay. Ms. Parsons, are you able to unmute? You're striking out here. All right. Ralph, if she's self-muted, can you help guide her in finding the unmute button?
Oh, okay. I just figured it out. Thanks. I'm
Wonderful.
Beverly Parsons. You ready? Okay, I'm Beverly Parsons from Hansville, Washington.
Yeah.
I'm on the board of the Kitsap Environmental Coalition. I would like to speak to the irony of today's agenda. Your agenda begins with the very practices that are contributing to the climate changes that you later in the agenda are talking about how to be resilient to. As the WEC has stated, the forests of the Pacific Northwest are among the most carbon-dense ecosystems on the planet. Short rotations and intensive harvesting significantly reduces our forest's ability to sequester carbon. Carbon sequestration can be dramatically increased by changes in forest management. And as you well know, the forests in this state are a critical part of nature's ecocycles. For example, capturing moisture as fog rolls in from the ocean. The forest protects our streams and the fish that inhabit them. Stop this destructive behavior of allowing short rotations and intensive harvesting of trees. These practices and policies were established generations ago under different climatic conditions. Move from a focus on complying with current rules and regulations to complying with the laws of nature. It is time to be part of regeneration of our lands. It is not enough to be resilient to the climate changes that, in large part, have been created by the forest practices that are allowed in this state. The current rules and regulations were created at a time when there may have been more margin for error, or at least people thought that was the case. That is no longer true. I am calling on you to listen to the cries of the public to stop the self-defeating sale of timber such as is on the agenda today, and to go beyond climate resilience, another agenda item, to regeneration of our natural resources. Please listen to the local communities and engage with us in regeneration of the nature that surrounds and supports us. Shift your priorities to caring for our public land in ways that benefit us all, both long and short term. Thank you.
Thank you. Pamela Keeley. Ralph, do we have Pamela
Yeah,
Keeley?
Ms. Keeley is self-muted.
Ms. Keeley, if you're able to unmute, then we can hear you.
Okay, can you hear me now?
You can, thank you.
Okay, thank you for the tip. I think people are going to need to know to go to the little pop-up window and uncheck the microphone icon.
Yep.
Then they'll be able to speak. My name is Pam Keeley, and I'm also from Kitsap Environmental Coalition. Beverly Parsons just mentioned the irony of today's BNR agenda, and I'd like to suggest another word for it: hypocrisy. If you wonder why streets across America are filled with angry and anguished people, it's because they've had it with structures like BNR. You act like you listen to us, but plow right ahead with practices that don't make sense. You ignore tribal treaties. We're like the wildlife, insects, and fish that you pretend to care about, but look right through and leave homeless and broken. This board is made up of highly educated people, responsible not just for funding public schools, but for setting an example in education. You are also the supposed guardians of Washington State's natural resources. But every decision you take today, including the Middle May project, will likely contribute to more environmental devastation. We implore you to move to 21st century policies and sustainable practices and to honor tribal treaties and sovereignty. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Keith Wagner, followed by Rebecca Davis. Again, if you can go up to the box and click on the microphone, you will be able to unmute and be heard.
Hello, this is Senator Keith Wagner. I represent the 39th Legislative District where this sale is going on. I'm going to reserve my remarks for Middle May to the proper place in the agenda. But I want to thank you for having this session today. I logged on early and I want to validate. One gentleman was saying he's having a hard time with the audio. I would tell you he's not alone. So there is a problem here with people being able to hear what's being said all the time. And I've been on hundreds of Zoom and webinars since the COVID thing started, so I know some are better than others, but today it has been particularly bad. And anyway, I'm just validating the gentleman's complaint, even though I suspect we're on different sides of the issue. So good to be here. I noticed that the last two speakers are actually not from our area. So that's why I'm here, to represent the people that are from our area, most of which support the DNR's positions. And in particular, since tribal sovereignty was brought up, I've been in touch with the tribes that I represent, and most support this, and they're certainly against the reconveyance of property to the county where their tribal rights are not guaranteed. So I'll end there and I'll save the rest of my remarks for the proper place in the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Wagner. Great to have you on, and we will definitely, following this meeting, take note on the audio so we can address it in future meetings. Appreciate everyone's patience, public. Next is Rebecca Davis, followed by Lisa Hurt.
Hi, thank you for letting us speak, and I apologize for talking in the general time about Middle May, because that's what I'm here to talk about. I can't stay for the whole meeting, but I just wanted to say I live in Linwood and we have a cabin up east of Gold Bar, and I have driven the Highway 2 corridor every week for the last 5 or 6 years, and I have been really distressed by the changes in the corridor, the aggressive logging. I understand that logging is necessary, an economic necessity, but I also really resonate to what the first speaker said about carbon sequestration and also the need to balance recreation and beauty with economics. And so that's why I was really excited to see about the possibility of transferring some land to the county to create a park. And so I just wanted to speak up in support of that. And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca. Next up, Lisa Hurt, followed by Reed Blanchard.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Great, thank you. I agree with the senator about audio issues. Maybe I encourage the board members to maybe mute their mics unless they're speaking. That sometimes helps. Anyway, my name is Lisa Hurt, and I am part of the Kitsap Environmental Coalition Forestry Work Group and the Planet Earth, speaking of what the senator said. I would like to know why, as policymakers for the DNR, determining how our state land and resources are used, that you continue to use outdated forestry harvesting models, considering climate collapse and species extinction. Times have changed and you need to listen. We, your constituents, value the right to influence what goes on in the forest. Many people have voiced their concern against the practice of full-scale clear cutting and the management practices of a clear cut, but you refuse to listen or make changes. Your job should be more than extractive thinking and profit. You need to think about your responsibility to the health and well-being of the people you serve. There are ways to have sustainable working forests without clear cutting. If selective logging were a practice, there would be far less outcry from the public because it would leave intact forests for animals to live in and people to enjoy. It would leave ground cover intact, so there would be no need to spray poison, which means healthy soil and water for everyone and everything for the future. Clear cutting is a threat to biodiversity. We must stop the monoculture planting of evergreen trees and plant a variety of native species, so in the future we will have a healthy mixed forest, which will increase the biodiversity of all plants and animals and help sequester carbon. Sure, it would mean less profit in the short term, but what is the point of making money for the schools if there are no children to attend? The challenge is to create a balance between harvesting raw materials that create the valuable revenue you desire and the non-financial benefits of a forest that a forest provides, such as clean water, biodiversity, and life. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Reed Blanchard.
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Reed Blanchard, and I live in Indianola, Washington, up north in Kitsap County. But years ago, I lived in an urban area, and I would hear about the spotted owl issue and the logging roads issue. And when I would talk with my friends, I'd be like, hey, but you know what? Timber harvesting is complex, but at least it's renewable. And it's a lot better than using plastic, and it's a lot better than using mined materials for resources. And then I moved to a rural environment where I could see some of the clear cutting up close. I learned more about the process. I noticed the increased rate of clear cutting in the area. And I've learn more about, and I think we as a society have learned more about the roles of forest and the new roles that the forest can take on in the climate change and kind of this modern world as far as the forest support biodiversity and those important elements. And I've began to realize that while harvesting timber can be renewable, clear cutting is not actually sustainable. You know, it's summertime and I like to take my kids down to the beach at low tide. You know, there's a lot of mud flats out here, and I always caution them. I'm you know, one of those parents are like, hey, watch where you're stepping, kids. There's a lot of living things down there. It looks like a rock, but it's really a bunch of you know, mussels and just you know, I'm on them a lot about where they step. You know, we have to respect life. I teach them that a lot. You know, life is fragile. We can't take it for granted. And when you look at the way we clear cut right now, it seems very much like we're taking life for granted. We could leave strands of woods intact to provide a corridor, to provide some habitat for the areas that are cut. We could leave trees on steep slopes to protect against landslides. It's not hard to do. You know, and what happens with the DNR land is magnified in the private side of things. You know, so I think what I'm asking here is, you know, is this the best that we can do? Are we trying hard enough to balance the economics, the environment? We need jobs. We know truck drivers are depend on logging. We know that the mills in smaller towns, you know, that can be a lifeline. We hear from other speakers a lot of people that what we're doing is it won't last.
3 minutes.
You know, people today, one more thing, we're craving leadership. We really want problem solvers that can bring different groups together and solve complex problems. That's what we need today. And that's what I'm asking the board to do, is to provide leadership to bring these different groups together and solve some problems. We have so much to gain. Right, thank you.
Hours. I'm not kidding. The greenies are pulling out all the stops. Delayed the sale for 2.5 years.
Commissioner Franz, I think we need Commissioner Peach probably to mute his mic if that's him. You are muted also.
I was listening to everybody muting. All right, Commissioner Peach, if you could mute, it might help with audio, and that would be great. And next up, great, thank you. Next up, we have Ed Bowen, followed by Marcy Gold.
Hello?
Yes, is that Mr. Bowen?
For the fourth meeting, I don't know how this is going to work because I have to listen on a phone and talk on this website, so I'm sure it's feedbacking. My general comment is in regards to the Peninsula Land Exchange approved on May 5th. I have not heard any status of this exchange going to escrow other than it's on hold. All I have to say at this point is that in the process of it being on hold, any settlement that comes to bear be made public before that is finalized. I demand due process in my backyard. Thank you.
Thank you. Marcy Gold? Ralph, do we have Marcy
Commissioner,
on?
I don't see Marcy as on the
Okay,
school as
great.
being on the line anymore.
Okay, I'm going to ask Ralph, there were two people in the beginning, Mr. Pedro Valverde and Miss Carol Price. Are they on?
Carol is not on. Valverde is. We can try his microphone again now.
Yeah, let's do that.
Mr.
And Mr.
Valverde.
Valverde, if you're there, if you can find if you'd like to speak, if you can find the unmute microphone at the top, we might be able to hear you. All right. All right, Ralph, I think what I might do is move Mr. Valverde to timber sale action items, just to make sure we get him in if we're able to solve the audio challenge, if there is one. Okay. All right. All right. Next item up, we're going to move next to the agenda is public comments for timber sale action items. We have quite a few people in this that have signed up here. Would like if people could please try to keep their comments to 2 minutes. And we will try to move through this quickly. Remember to make sure when your name is called to go to the unmute so that we can try to move through this as quickly as possible. First person up is Mike Nash, followed by Cheryl Johnson.
Yeah, is that, can you hear me? Mike Nash.
Yes,
here.
Mr. Nash, we can hear you. Proceed.
Yeah, hi, Mike Nash here. I live near Gold Bar, and I'm here today to beg the board members to delay the Middle May sale for another 6 months, the Middle May sale and any other timber sales that are in the proposed reconveyance area that we're calling Wild Wallace. I'd like to bring it to the board members' attention. I'm not certain that you would know about this, but on August the 18th, Sam Lowe put a last-minute agenda item on the Snohomish County Council meeting, and the title of that on that agenda was what the hell was it?
County roads funding.
County roads funding. Now, the actual meat of this thing was that 4 DNR members gave an hour-long presentation on Middle May. I assume that they had more than an hour's notice to assemble this presentation, and I don't know why Sam Lowe only gave an hour's notice, or why he used a misleading name on the agenda, and I was informed about it, so I was able to listen in. The presentation was all about Middle May, the 5 bridges and the 6 miles of road that is being required to be built to harvest 193 acres. Now, I'd like to know how many lots, how many sales of 193 acres have that many bridges and that much roading? Because to me, it doesn't really make economic sense, does it? So what wasn't talked about was the planned timber sales in the zone between Middle May Creek and Wallace Falls State Park that this massive infrastructure will open up. And this is misleading the council members, and it is misleading the public. And due process is not being served here. And I am begging you, board members, to please give us 6 months. As Brian pointed out, it is not going to affect anything if it goes through. Allow the public to know the full story about what Middle May opens up, the infrastructure that Middle May opens up, what it will allow and what it will facilitate a logging of approximately another 1,000 acres in between May Creek and Wallace Falls State Park. My 3 minutes is up, I'm sorry, but I beg you in the name of due process to delay this sale for 6 months. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Cheryl Johnson, followed by Darlene O'Grady.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, loud and clear.
Good morning. I'm Cheryl Johnson. I live in Snohomish, and I'm with Backcountry Horsemen. We have been involved with this Reeder Foothill area for over 15 years. I feel that the DNR has done fabulous efforts to put all these different user groups together. You've had multiple meetings and forest walkthroughs in the last 15 years on how we can log this area and develop it into recreational use. And so I'm hearing groups are wanting you to, give them more notice. This has been on the table for many, many years. And we would like to see this go through. We'd like the sale to go through. It's been one installment after another. The junior taxing districts are now being financially harmed from this. And the recreation is being continually put on hold because we cannot develop recreation out there without the bridge and road infrastructure to protect May Creek. The ORV end of Reeder Foothills has done a fabulous job of developing trails and recreation and coinciding with the logging and harvesting of the timber. I think that that can be done in the non-motorized section. We just keep delaying it when it's one delay after another. And we'd like to see this go forward. Let's get this developed for everybody to use and to enjoy, and to make our junior taxing districts whole. Thank you.
Thank you. Darlene O'Grady, followed by Mike Town. Ms. O'Grady, are you there? Able to unmute? Ralph, do you see Miss O'Grady?
Mike shows as being active.
Okay. Miss O'Grady, if you look up, you'll see a mic symbol at the top. Make sure. All right. I think I'm gonna pause, see if we can get Miss O'Grady back or able to speak. I'm gonna move to Mike Town, followed by Kathy Hamilton.
Mike Town, okay.
Yes. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, Mr. Town, we
Okay.
can.
All right, thank you. So my name is Mike Town. In 2007, for the last 14 years, almost 14 years, I was a member of the Reeder Foothills rec planning team. During that time, I have probably spent 2,000 plus volunteer hours in the Reeder Foothills. I've led at least 50 field trips for DNR officials, dozens of people, including the commissioner. And all during that time, I was trying to come up with a solution in which we could come to a win-win solution in regards to motorized recreation and the timber industry concerns. During that time, the DNR spent $6 million on a motorized plan and almost nothing on a non-motorized plan. During that time, we came up, me and several other people, with 4 different solutions that were win-wins. One was a different type of logging plan. Another was a trust land transfer. Another was a GoFundMe campaign in which my wife and I, both retired teachers, donated. We said we would donate $30,000 plus volunteer in the local schools, and a reconveyance option. All 4 of those options are still potentially available for different types of ways of being able to meet the needs of all the different user groups in this area. What has bothered me the most during this time was the way that the DNR conducted themselves during this process. There were numerous times when we could have worked on a solution over the last 14 years, but instead the DNR made many misstatements, worked in a way that was clandestine more with the timber industry and unknown to the public, which Mike Nash talked about, made misstatements or outright lies to individuals at public meetings, to the press, in papers that were given to this board, briefing papers, on field trips to community members and to people personally. I always recall the one meeting where a number of Gold Bar folks and Sultan folks had with a DNR official in the Monroe Public Library about 4 years ago, when we had talked about the fact that Reeder had gotten so bad that the previous commissioner had to close the forest for 2 years, that a lot of people in the Upper Valley had no confidence in DNR. And that high-level DNR official said, no, don't worry about it. There's a new commissioner and things will be different, I promise you. Well, when you see the number of people who have signed the petition, I think we're somewhere in the 4,000 to 5,000 level. And I believe that includes every single Gold Bar council member, as well as the mayor, and 2 resolutions passed by the mayor. There is no possible way that you could come to the conclusion that this has gotten better. As a matter of fact, up in the Upper Valley, DNR stands for do not resuscitate, because the confidence that the public has in this organization is at the lowest I have ever seen. Thank you.
Thank you. Kathy Hamilton, followed by Bill Turner.
What do you think of that?
Are you there? Are you there, Ms. Hamilton?
Your
Ralph,
microphone shows self-muted.
Ms. Hamilton, if you're able to go find your microphone up there, you can unmute and we'll be able to hear you. It's up at the top.
Can you hear me?
Oh, perfectly. Yes, Ms. Hamilton, we can.
That was a challenge. I'm Kathy Hamilton, and I'm from Snohomish County. And I want to echo some of the early comments, and that I would like to see a 6-month delay in your plans for logging. I echo the comments about carbon sequestration. I'm just learning about that. And I have 3 beautiful grandchildren that it worries me what's happening, and the clear cutting and all of the logging is very disturbing to me. And hearing about the non-public comments that I'm just learning about, I'm very disturbed. So I would ask that you delay for 6 months. So thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Bill Turner, followed by Tiffany Williams.
Good morning, board. My name is Bill Turner. I'm the Washington Log Procurement Manager for Sierra Pacific Industries. And first off, I want to compliment your staff and thank you for allowing me to tag along on your virtual board tour. It was a great reminder of what the DNR staff and their planning has to go through in preparing these timber sales. It's not just done haphazardly, but they take a lot into consideration, and their professionalism and their flexibility in working in this Reader foothills was really evident with their presentation. I'd like to encourage the passage of the entire timber sale package before you this morning, including the Middle May timber sale. I know there are some asking for 6 months delay in that. Let me tell you some of the hazards in delay in 6 months. When we were the successful purchaser on the Singletary timber sale, which was then vacated for procedural reasons a couple of years ago. One of the things that takes so much time is, as one of the presenters asked, or one of the public speakers asked earlier, is the bridges. We had to order 3 bridges for that timber sale. This one is 5 bridges. It took more than 4 months to get those bridges engineered and built, and that's after the contracts are signed. So it's about a month between the bid date and the contract award, and then it's another, like I said, 4 months. That's a 5-month period. If we're going to be building roads next year, we need to order those bridges soon to get them where we can stage them, because it is a large road package, and we want, and whatever purchaser gets it is going to want to get these roads in to be able to access the sale. So it's postponing does have costs and consequences, and it will delay any year for another year. It'll likely be litigated as some of the opponents are threatening. If that's the case, the field work cannot begin until probably after the litigation has run its course anyway. So I'd like to encourage that this board make an affirmative decision for the entire timber sale package, including Middle May. It's been studied, it's been modified, and we support the passage of this package.
Tiffany Williams, followed by Russ Sumter.
Hello, this is Tiffany Williams. Can you hear me?
Yes, perfectly. Thank you, Ms. Williams.
Hi, I am a community organizer from Snohomish County. I'm also a former county employee who this past primary election collected ballots along the Highway 2 corridor. And I fell in love with the Sky Valley. I am very disturbed that this region would be logged whatsoever, to be quite honest with you. But a previous participant said that this could be good for recreation. I disagree. I think the timber sale needs to be delayed till more public can be involved and have input, and also more input from tribal government. I do believe that there are opportunities for outdoor recreation and other areas that could be taken advantage of and produce a profit regionally, but also I'm just highly disturbed that this region would be logged at all. So I am against that, and I would just like to ask the BNR and the DNR to please delay the timber sale till this can be further discussed publicly. Thank you.
Thank you. Russ Sumter, followed by Marjorie Fields.
Can you hear me?
Yes, perfectly.
Okay, sorry if there's background noise. I'm commuting into work. My name is Russ Sumter. I'm the Sultan School Board Chair, first elected to the school board in '97 and a Valley community member for 30 years. I'd like to urge the board to move forward with the Middle May timber harvest. In chairing a board, I know that whenever an issue comes up, you get a lot of people filling the seats negative, opposed to most of the things that you're trying to move forward with. You're hearing that today. I can assure you that the majority of our community is in support of this timber harvest. The schools that we represent have many needs that have been put off for, in some cases, decades because of the delay in harvesting these timbers, which is your job title. So I apologize for those who find that what you're doing is improper. The state mandated that these lands are used for our children. And in meetings in your chambers, I've been attacked by a lawyer who accused me of how dare I bring up the children in this discussion, but I am speaking for the children as an elected official. We need classrooms that the roofs don't leak. We need buildings improved. We need new classes. And in this urgent time during the COVID virus, the dollars just aren't there, and we're going to find ourselves in a major shortfall, and the state doesn't have an answer. We all know that the state has a tremendous budget crisis with all of the unemployment claims. There just won't be the dollars to produce the school areas that we need. So I strongly urge you to move forward and approve this timber sale. And thank you very much.
Thank you. Marjorie Fields, followed by Matt Comiskey.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Miss Fields.
Okay, my name is Marjorie Fields. I live in Edmonds. I'm adding my voice to those begging the DNR and BNR to delay action on the Middle May timber sale for at least 6 months. Time is needed to work with citizens, tribal governments, and user groups to explore reconveyance of the land. The economic value of the timber is much less than the value of the forest for recreation and tourism. Like many others, I believe that logging the area is a short-sighted approach. And this isn't just about the Gold Bar area, it's about all of our states, all of our citizens. Thank you.
Thank you. Matt Comiskey, followed by Michelle Taylor.
Good morning. Hopefully everybody can hear me. My name is Matt Comiskey. For the record, I'm the Washington manager for American Forest Resource Council, and I come to you on this first day of school in the Chehalis School District, just down the road from 2 brand new schools built with woods, storing massive amounts of carbon, built partially with state timber dollars. Last week, I sent you a letter providing some additional perspective on the Middle May issue that's before you today. I think you can see that that has been a long history of public engagement, and this process has taken many years to get to this point. I would note that none of the win-win solutions that have been proposed to date are win-win when you really dig into the finite details. They harm beneficiary revenues, and they harm timber rev volume and timber jobs. I think at this time, there's been no real solutions despite all of the opportunities and dialogue, community conversations, no real solutions to addressing the fall down in volume, the fall down in jobs, the harm to junior taxing district revenue, and how to support those ongoing into the future with more than just a one-time sale. I think, as Mr. Turner alluded, as a forester and a forest engineer, I have at this point in my career the pleasure of going around and watching how the forest grows, and many of those harvest units as a young engineer that I laid out are now, even some of the trees that I personally planted are pushing 50, 60 feet tall. And You know, as an engineer, road projects take time to plan. Just as any other large construction project, you need lead time. Mr. Turner was correct. Having spec'd and designed bridges, that just doesn't happen overnight. And so delaying 6 months simply just means really moving the sale and the revenue to junior taxing district out even further, because you'll be looking to try to do all of that lead time work during the springtime and during the summer, when you should be out building in the dry, in order to make sure that you're doing all the best management practices to protect soil, water, those types of things. So I really think at this point, you know, to be mindful of the time, I urge you to approve the entire sale packet. It's time to make a decision. It won't be easy, but it's time to make a decision and move on. Thank you.
Michelle Taylor, followed by Gigi Goldner.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, we can perfectly.
Hi, thank you. My name is Michelle Taylor, and I ask you to please delay the sale of Middle May Forest in order to explore options to reconvey this land to a public park. I live on May Creek Road, and I hike that trail regularly, and I talk to hundreds of people who all use this trail and feel that I'm speaking for the voices of many. The parking lot of Wallace Falls State Park regularly backs up over a mile from the parking lot because our local trails all up and down the valley are absolutely packed and crammed, especially during times of COVID when people need areas to get out and use these parks. This particular Middle May area connects the Wallace Falls and Reeder trails and could create a multi-day camping trail to support the needs of our community. As a public school teacher, I understand the financial needs of our schools, but I also understand that this forest is one that our students, children, and family use. The location of this specific forest makes it ideal for a county park. The best way to support our children, especially when COVID prevents them from being in the classroom, is to allow them to learn about our forests and ecology firsthand by preserving and allowing them access to our beautiful ecology. Our forests are the beauty and soul of our community, and the majority of our community is not in support of this timber sale. I beg you to please allow 6 months to explore the Wild Wallace County Park option. Thank you.
Thank you. Gigi Goldner, followed by Heath Heikkila.
Hi, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, perfectly.
Great. My name is Gigi Goldner. My comments are regarding the Middle May timber sale. I'm a resident of Sultan. I have an 8th grader at Sultan Middle School, and I'm also the president of the PTO at the middle school. And as the president of the PTO, I'm in the school on a weekly, if not daily basis, pre-COVID, of course. So I get to see firsthand the needs of the district. And the schools are worn down in need of repair, and our student counts are going up every year. And you may not be aware of, but our district is property poor. So we're not Bellevue, we're not Issaquah, where I moved from. So we can't raise anywhere near the same amount of money that other districts can in these higher property value areas. It's just not possible. And just last year, we had our roof collapse in the middle school in the band room. So imagine trying to teach and hold band practice with over 50 kids in a tiny portable for over 4 months. And we weren't prepared for it. We had to take out a loan of over 1.2 million to replace the roof and remove the mold from the interior walls of the building. There were so many places within the walls where there was no stud support, and because it had all rotted away. So imagine what else we might find if we were to open up the walls in the rest of the schools. So these are the exact type of things that our school district needs funding for, and the Sultan School District has relied on the proceeds from these timbers for several decades and budgets for it each year. So I would like to give my full support to the Middle May timber sale and recommend that you move forward with the sale without further delay. And I'm an environmentally conscious liberal, but I still support this. And our schools need this funding. So I ask that you please move forward with it. Thank you.
Thank you. Heath Heikkila, followed by Jerry Bonagovsky.
Hi, good morning, Commissioner Franz. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, perfectly.
Oh, okay, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. Heath Heikle here with the American Forest Resource Council as well. Would like to also speak in favor of moving the entire package forward, including middle May. And I want the board to think of this as an opportunity to, I guess, reject the idea that working forests can't be compatible with recreation, that they can't be compatible with all these other things we appreciate. And I think you guys got in your field trip a very clear message that that is just a false paradigm and it's a false choice. And if you look in Snohomish County, 60% of Snohomish County's forests are already managed by the U.S. Forest Service. They are available to recreation. They are being protected for conservation for that, use. And I think, we I learned as a kid growing up the slogan, think globally, act locally. Well, what are we doing if we, kind of buy into this notion that we can't be responsible stewards under some of the strongest forest practice rules in the entire world? We can't sustainably harvest timber, replant, produce wood products that sequester carbon that are needed and demanded in this country. So I think, unfortunately, this is a one of just many of these sales that are going to come up in the future, not in this area, but across the state. And I think there's just an opportunity to really hopefully educate people about the benefits of working forest, including carbon, which I'm going to get into during the board report comments. So I do want to urge you to move it forward. I think that if you look at Matt Comiskey sent a letter in and really documented some of what was said at the Snohomish County Council meeting a couple weeks ago, including by the Tulalip tribe. They should speak for themselves, but this really has gone on for a long time, and I would urge it to move forward. So thank you.
Thank you. Jerry Bonagovsky, followed by Doug Cooper.
Good morning. Can you hear me, Commissioner?
Yes, I can hear you perfectly.
Oh, thank you again. Good morning, Chair Franz and board members. For the record, my name is Jerry Bonagovsky. I'm the president of the Washington Contract Loggers Association based in Olympia, Washington. WCLA represents logging, log trucking, and log road construction companies. Many of these companies, like your trust beneficiaries, rely on the DNR timber sale program to support their organizations. The DNR timber sale program is critical to maintain the infrastructure of our industry and provide both support for family wage jobs and rural communities in the state of Washington. I'd like to thank the DNR staff for all of their work on the Middle May timber sale. They've worked extremely hard on this sale to ensure that it meets regulatory and environmental restraints. WCLA encourages the board to approve the entire packet of timber sale today, including the Middle May timber sale. The Middle May timber sale, after many, many years of work, including stakeholder meeting after stakeholder meeting, it's time to move this sale forward. Any further delay will only cause negative impact to the beneficiaries and the forest products industry, of which WCLA members are an important part. Thank you.
Thank you. Doug Cooper, followed by Dan Chaplick.
Cooper. I'm Vice President of Resources for Hampton Lumber. Hampton Lumber owns and operates 3 sawmills in Washington in the communities of Randall, Morton, and Darrington. Located in Snohomish County, the Darrington Mill and its 150 employees relies on volume harvested from state DNR lands in Snohomish County. Our mill and the supporting businesses are easily the largest economic driver of the Darrington community. The timber grown and harvested on state lands in Snohomish County are critical to the economic health of the local county beneficiaries and critical to the ongoing supply necessary to operate our Darrington sawmill. Sustainable harvest reductions approved by this board make every sale in the Northwest region important to sustain our business. Darrington, similar to other Cascade foothill communities, is proud and protective of the recreation opportunities that are offered by the adjacent state and federal public lands. As just noted by another commenter, there are about 1,348,000 acres of land in Snohomish County, most of which are located within the Mount Baker Snoqualmie National Forest, Wilderness, and Wild and Scenic River System area designations. Those lands are largely or in entirety dedicated to conservation and recreation. While working to promote future recreation opportunities, Darrington leaders recognize the past, current, and future economic contributions of a robust and sustainable forest products industry. On July 16th of this year, Darrington was granted a $2 million award from the State of Washington Community Economic Revitalization Board to support development of a wood innovation center. The town has received other grants in support of the project, including one from the Governor's Strategic Reserve Fund. What cannot be lost in the notions of a wood innovation center, supported by state dollars, is the main ingredient, wood. The DNR rightfully promotes and is obligated to manage forests as working forests. At the August board meeting, DNR staff demonstrated the innovative and extraordinary efforts they have employed to ensure recreation and forest management can occur simultaneously in the Ryder Foothills Forest. I urge the board to acknowledge the department's working for success, remain committed to its fiduciary obligations, and approve the October 2020 timber sale packet, including the middle May timber sale. And especially given all the comments this morning, thank you to the DNR staff and this board for what you take on in your responsibilities.
Thank you. Dan Cheplick, followed by Samuel Chesley. Mr. Cheplick, can you hear us? And if you're muted, go up to the top and you'll be able to.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, perfect.
Fantastic, and I apologize. I'm going to try to do this within 2 minutes. I wrote a letter to the BNR and Chairman Franz about a week ago, and I wanted just to highlight a couple of things. I participated in the virtual field trip, and going into that, I wasn't sure what to expect, but what it demonstrated to me is the all-out effort that DNR, the board, and the DNR staff have gone to try to meet a multitude of needs. If anybody believes that a 6-month delay is just going to help this thing proceed, think again. There will be a request in 6 months for another delay for some other reason. It's been a series of delays. When I look back over the many of years that the Sultan School District has been involved with Singletary, now Middle May, I can't think of any more reasons to delay. There have been more outreach and more opportunities for community input than I can name, and I've attended many, if not all. If you fast forward to the present day, it's just more of the same, a different month, a different year with some of the same tactics being employed. I understand that if the Middle May sale goes through, and hope when it does, that there will be money put forward to develop trails and an equestrian parking area. I know that the DNR has went to efforts to try to address the wild or the spotted owl habitat. I live in this community and go to Wallace Falls State Park often myself and have to turn around frequently because I can't park. So to think of taking a 5,300 acre park, or what is enough to fit 10 Disneyland theme parks inside and make a park, it just doesn't make any sense. It'll take it out of play is all it'll do. And that's not what anybody wants. Further delay of removal of this property from trust land will cause continued harm to the Sultan School District. Reconveying means taking a branch of our relied upon funding for many years. I went to the website where this group was trying to solicit input and signature. And one of the things they said on there was, this is just a one-time gain for the district. What it didn't say was, this has been a one-time or more gain every single year for many decades that has meant almost $8 million over the last 20 years. We currently are budgeting over $2 million over the next 4 years. I spent 2 weeks ago cutting $2 million from our budget due to the COVID implications. As a Sky Valley resident and Sultan School District employee, I urge you to continue to move forward with this sale. You've done a tremendous amount of outreach. We have tried to make deals where reconveyance was on the table about 2 years ago, only to have that dumped, stepped on, thrown out the door because there was an opportunity for some of the environmental groups to get beyond it. I also understand that you have a lot of signatures that have come in.
3 minutes.
I have, real quickly, a strong concern about that this misrepresents numbers. I looked on the list and my name is on the list, and I don't support reconveyance, and I did not sign the petition. Going further down there, I also saw a friend's name. He didn't sign it. I called him. So I don't know if it's people responding to the plea to get 5 people to sign up or what it is. And I apologize for going over. Thank you for all you do. I'm checking out.
Thank you. Next up is Samuel Chesley, followed by Senator Keith Wagner.
You guys hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. My name is Sam Chesley. I live just outside of Gold Bar. I oppose the Middle May timber sale and support the reconveyance for a county park. I'm asking DNR and BNR to hold the unsold timber sales for 6 months while Snohomish County works with citizens, tribal governments, and user groups to explore reconveyance. I'm part of the 3,000 individuals and many local businesses and political organizations that have signed up to support the Wild Wallace reconveyance proposal in the past 30 days. I want to clarify some things that were put out in the August 16th article in the Herald. Article, would 5,300 acre county park be a good thing for US2, that stated that over close to 1,200 acres of timber sales are planned in the Reeder foothills over the next 5 years, most all of which would be variable retention harvest. I think this is the first time that the public has actually heard about how much logging will take place around Wallace Falls. Today we're talking about Middle May, which is only around 200 acres, but 1,200 to 1,800 acres are planned for this area over the next decade. The public needs to know this. In that same article, Sam Lowe omitted important details when talking about Middle May. He did not bring up the 1,200 acres in 5 years or the 1,800 acres over 10 years. He said what DNR is harvesting is such a small portion out there, yet that portion benefits the smaller taxing districts. He also stated on public input that if we need to have a meeting again, let's do it, I quote. I'd like to point out that Middle May was only approved at the end of January 2020, and we have been in the middle of a pandemic and have had no ability for public comment other than a handful of BNR meetings. No actual site visits, no town hall meetings, and the only meeting that was planned in startup was canceled because of COVID-19. People in the area do not know about Middle May or the 1,800 acres of logging that will take place in the Reeder foothills. Also, DNR did not have the proposed reconveyance list and therefore could not actually discuss the policy and cost of reconveyance with the county. To have this conversation between DNR and the Snohomish County Council represents a misinformation campaign on behalf of DNR to misrepresent the citizen-led effort concerning Reeder Forest. In this process, the cost of this reconveyance is vastly overinflated and policy was not accurately discussed. Facts that were omitted: the 5,300 acres in our reconveyance proposal are all forest board land, and the administration cost is basically the cost of the survey. Misinformation used in the August 16th article and presented to the council. Like for like transfer, state land transfer. For the proposed park to become a reality, trust acres would have to be transferred elsewhere in the Snohomish County. They'd have to find other state forest land with Snohomish County and do value for value swaps, said Agnes Brody, DNR Uplands Deputy Supervisor. So this record has to be clarified. Also, I'd like to state about the August 13th site visit. Board members committed to coming up to Gold Bar and walking the trails and talking to the community on this. This virtual retreat became a DNR presentation discussing irrelevant issues like motorized recreation and a forested corridor that DNR can ultimately log. There was no ability to provide public input that was given concerning the impacts of the 5-mile-long main logging road or the spurs, and a few drone shots does not replace the commitment to this process that the forest deserves. Finally, we expect DNR to continue to honor this in-person visit that members of the BNR board committed to and not be shuffled aside in order to push forward their plans to harvest over 1,200 acres in the next 5 years. I'd also like to point out that, as I understand, Bill Peach committed to coming up to this site visit. And, you know, I realize in his hot mic that he just put in, he said something to the effect of, we're wasting 2 hours, 2.5 years. The greenies are pulling out all the stops. I don't think this is becoming of the board, and I don't represent think it represents a good public process and due diligence on the behalf of Middle May. I urge the board to reevaluate its position and consider postponing the Middle May clear cut for 6 months to continue this process. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Keith Wagner, followed by Russ Pfeiffer Hoyt.
Thank you. I'm Senator Keith Wagner. I represent the 39th Legislative District, and I live in Cedar Woolley. I'm also a scientist. I'm a physical oceanography major who is a representative on the Ocean Acidification Board for the state and spent the last summer touring private and DNR lands as part of the aerial herbicide working group. So I say that to give you some credibility that I know a little bit about what I'm talking of. You've heard some talking points that are repeated over and over and over today. We want 6 months so people can weigh in, and we want the tribes to have a chance. The tribes have weighed in. You have the letter from the Tulalipes and the Lummies. I've personally spoken to tribal chairmen in my district, and they are absolutely against reconveyance. So don't fall into that trap that the tribes have not been included. They have been included, and they're against it. You had a lot of people here telling you what your responsibility is today, but you and I both know that you have a primary fiduciary responsibility to manage those forests to get the best outcome so we have income coming into our local governments and our schools. That's your primary responsibility, the fiduciary one. But you've done a great job mixing recreation in with it, something you don't have to do. And I know you've done that because I've been out there on sites looking at places where we can improve trailheads and parking and recreational access in that area. So my hat's off to the DNR for really playing in an area that you're not really required to play in. The state has lots of problems right now. We are in a huge budget deficit, and logging plays a part in the solutions of many of those. We have housing problems, we have jobs problems, we have schools that are overburdened with budget, and we have capital budget problems at all levels of government, counties and cities. These sales fix all of those things. They feed our mills, they provide jobs, they produce the materials to build homes. I'm guessing the people on here today that are against this already have their home built, but Washington's growing, and we have to build housing, and we build housing by logging. So this is a solution, not a problem. And I want to also address carbon sequestration because everybody seems to throw that out there. When you log trees, the carbon is sequestered in the things that are built out of it. And the new trees, which grow rapidly, sequester carbon at a higher rate than trees that have been there for a long time. So that's a totally empty argument that by cutting trees, you're somehow affecting the environment in a negative way with respect to carbon dioxide. Now, leaving them there to burn to the ground in the next forest fire, that is a problem. So again, my hat's off to you for doing a great job managing these forests. And I think you need to go forward with this. The 6-month thing is merely a delaying tactic. And thanks for hearing me.
Thank you. Russ Pfeiffer Hoyt, followed by Will Ibershoff.
First of all, can you hear me?
Yes, Russ, we can hear you.
Well, good morning. My name is Russ Pfeiffer Hoyt, and I'm chair of the Washington State School Directors Association Trust Lands Advisory Committee. I'm speaking today in favor of approving the Middle May timber sale. I appreciated the detailed background on Middle May that was included in the August Board of Natural Resources tour. This sale will provide needed revenue for the Sultan School District, and the infrastructure improvements included in the sale will allow access for forest management activities on a significant amount of additional common school and state forest lands. Middle May has been extensively studied. It is time now to approve this sale. Thank you.
Thank you. Will Ibershoff, followed by Laura Cox.
Hi, my name is Will Ebershoff. I'm the city administrator for the city of Sultan. I'm speaking on behalf of Mayor Wida, who is out of town right now. Thank you, Commissioner Franz, and the other board members for the opportunity to speak this morning. Today is a long time coming. The vote to move forward on the Middle May timber sale signifies more than decades worth of work by the Reitner foothills. Working forests provide critical resources for the communities they serve through local beneficiaries. Schools, hospitals, libraries, and roads have historically relied upon funding for these timber sales to support critical infrastructure for the Sky Valley community. I appreciate the work DNR and staff and many local stakeholders have the past decade to find a solution that significantly addresses the needs of local beneficiaries like our school district. Environmental concerns and recreational assets have also been addressed. The Middle May sale is a solution that takes all these interests into account. Any attempt to stall or delay this sale is just that, a stalling tactic. The claim that due diligence has not been done in the sale is false. DNR staff has done a phenomenal job to engage with the community and develop a solution that fits all the stakeholders. I encourage you to approve this sale today and bring a decade's worth of work to fruition. Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you so much. Laura Cox, followed by Mary Rollins.
Hello? Hello, is anybody there?
Yes, we can hear you, Ms. Cox.
Okay, great, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to present my opposition to this planned logging. I don't have any prepared words to say, so I'll make it real short. The valley is just getting so horribly ugly, and I understand that there are a lot of problems that this is supposedly going to solve, but it just seems like overkill at this point. The state park, it would be good if people could see something beautiful when they go through the Sky Valley, and it's not as beautiful as it used to be. And I don't have anything else to say other than I hope I don't have to sign up for another one of these things, because this is just no fun at all. Thank you. Bye.
Mary Rollins, followed by Jonathan Blubaugh.
Hi, good morning, and thank you for taking the time to hear public comment today. We hear exactly opposite thoughts this morning from the timber industry, the timber lobbyists, and apparently from the city of Sultan or the school board, who have benefited from timber sales in the past, but somehow were not able to use that money to fix roofs or things like that, money they've already had. And of course, they turn down, every bond because they know timber money is coming. Well, this kind of timber that's on this particular part of land is not what benefits the new program up in Darrington. As you know, Commissioner Franz, you have spearheaded this, and rightfully so, to use timber that's already down to make this new kind of lumber that is stronger than these trees are that we're trying to take away. It seems to me that the rights of citizens and the rights of the people in power are at, I hate to use the word loggerheads, but that's where we are. We have a lot of people that have signed on to this letter because they see a missed opportunity in creating something beautiful here. And I'd also like to say to Senator Wagner, I don't believe that Soxhawtl has weighed in on this, as you say. I think the tribes can speak for themselves. And if the DNR has talked to the tribes and said, which they thought, we're asking for 11,000 acres, which we're not, I think that's misinformation that needs to be heard. I'm very distraught that people who are paid to log this timber are weighing in on this call, and people who are not paid are the other people logging in. You need to understand that the community, the voters, are the people that do not want this logging in this area. There is a lot of area to log, but this is the low-hanging fruit. Yes, you've worked on it for a while, as the hot mic said, but we in this area see this as a different opportunity. We are looking into the future of climate collapse, and we are seeing the reality of what these trees can do for us. Just look at what King County is doing with their carbon program. We can recreate that in Snohomish County, but not if we keep logging at the rate we're logging. I'm sorry, there's no timer elapsing for me on this call, so I don't know how much time I've taken, but I urge you strongly, let all of the tribes weigh in, let everybody weigh in. And I'm sorry that so much work has been put into this, but it's a new world and we have new concerns and we need the time to look at them. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Jonathan Blubaugh, followed by Connor Don. Mr. Blubaugh, are you there? If you need to unmute, your microphone is at the top.
Yeah, I show that the microphone is active.
All right, Mr. Blubaugh, if you can unmute yourself, that would be great. It's at the top of, or speak up if you're there. All right, I think we're going to go on to Connor Don, and if Mr. Blubaugh come back. Connor Don, followed by Elizabeth Porter.
All right, my name's Dawn Connor. Can you hear me?
Oh yes, my apologies. I got your name backwards. It showed up differently.
That's okay. It's Dawn Connor.
Yes.
I'm requesting a delay on the timber sales as proposed. I would like to see more about the public park. My concerns are I am a member of Gold Bar Nature Trails. It's my happy place. I'm a retired firefighter paramedic that suffers from PTSD. And this is where I go for quiet to hike right out into the Reeder foothills, which is going to be impacted tremendously by the logging, which makes me very emotional and very sad. Also, as a firefighter, there's a few things I haven't read on the impact on the hills of the logging. I was involved in the Oso landslide, so that's a huge concern of mine. And I'm also an avid fisherman, and there is the Wallace River salmon hatchery, and I'd like to know how that's impacted. And I haven't seen anything online as far as those issues being addressed. So again, I'd like to request a delay, and those are my concerns. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Elizabeth Porter, followed by Charles Lee. Ms. Porter, if you're there and you're muted, if you could find your mic and unmute, we can hear you speak. Ralph, do we have Ms. Porter?
She showed the mic is shown to be active.
Okay. All right, I will see if we can get her back on. Let's move to Charles Lee, followed by Margaret James.
Commissioner Franz, can you hear me? Hello?
Andrew, yes, we hear you perfectly.
Okay, well, since you can't see my video, what I have over my left shoulder is May Creek down here in beautiful Gold Bar, and over my right shoulder, I have Wallace Falls State Park and that hillside that's being discussed today. And I want to start off by answering a question about the amount of work that DNR has put into the Reeder Foothills. I've been attending the rec meetings, and I've felt that I've just been jacked around by the DNR, and I've been given a lot of double talk. But right now, what I want to speak to is the fact that the public has not been allowed to really weigh in on this project. And I'm asking for a 6-month delay so that the county can explore with everybody the options on that hillside. I get real disturbed at all the existential threats that this one timber sale creates. It's going to destroy a school district. It's going to destroy the timber industry. That's just a bunch of hogwash. I'm not getting paid $80 an hour to attend this meeting. I'm actually losing money. I'm gonna have to work on Saturday to make up for my lost time at my job. So bear that in mind when you listen to these people who are making $80 an hour to take the whole morning. But I think it's time to have let the county have its opportunity to work out differences with the tribes, if there actually are any, and to open up actual opportunities. Again, I want to emphasize, I'm sitting here in Gold Bar. A couple of years ago, one of the most embarrassing elections I've seen was the local school bond that failed catastrophically. I think it's time for the Sultan School District to really look at their management structure and their superintendent. Perhaps that's where the changes need to be made. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Margaret James, followed by Ed Bowen.
Hey, hi there. Can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you perfectly.
Okay, hi, this is Margaret James, and I'm grateful that I can be here today and let you know how I feel, which is actually feels like a far cry from actually having a seat at the table. I've been sort of attending these sessions on and off about 10 months since the middle of May timber sale, I think, came up as a topic. And since then, I find there is a lot to learn about all the stakeholders, and realistically, in terms of how I stand up for Sky Valley, which I do, I want the best. I acknowledge that I am still seeking that understanding. I'm not interested in tactics. I'm interested in smart management. I don't feel like I'm requesting so much a delay for 6 months as an opportunity for transformational or a better multi-stakeholder process. And basically, that's my comment. Thank you.
Commissioner, I have Elizabeth Porter back on.
Great, fabulous. Ms. Porter, I'm going to go to you next.
Thank you. This is Elizabeth Porter, and you all can hear me now?
Yes, we hear you perfectly.
Perfect. Sorry, my mic came unplugged.
I understand.
Anyway, my name is Elizabeth Porter, and I'm a resident of Covington, Washington, which may not seem like it's anywhere near Middle May, but the reality is we are all connected. Our forests are here to be shared and managed. I can certainly appreciate the board's position and Commissioner Franz, the work that you have to do to be able to manage and balance the economy and the economic benefits versus recreation and a quality of life that we enjoy in the Pacific Northwest that I would hate to see continually being degraded as we inch our way into mass clear cutting. It sounds like there's a lot of people that have weighed in on this that have a lot more experience than I do. I'm speaking as a resident of Washington State. But I want to revert back to something that you said, Commissioner Franz, at the very beginning when you were trying to get this process in place for the public comment. You said it's better to get it right and take time to get it right than to get it wrong. And I really appreciate the thought that you put into that for this meeting. But I also think there's an opportunity to continue with that, especially when it comes to middle May. And my personal preference is that we don't log anything, we keep it natural, but I know that that's not realistic. middle May, we should at least delay for 6 months so that we have an opportunity for everybody to weigh in appropriately, and so that the additional facts are put forth for the public. We are talking simply about 193 acres that potentially, I think the opening bid is $2.5 million. If we look at a way to convey either to a county park or even to a state park, there's an opportunity to charge trailhead fees that would help offset the money that didn't get earned from logging. And whether that money gets conveyed to school districts or not, there's been several folks bringing up really good points about how, I think was it $1.2 million to replace just a roof. So what is $2.5 million really going to do? If the city needs help with that, or the school district needs help with that, bonding can be part of that. So again, with everything that's, we've heard pros and cons for logging versus conveying versus just keeping it intact. The balanced approach is the one that needs to be taken, and 193 acres to continue to preserve recreation and natural beauty, to me, seems the most balanced way to go forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Next up is Ed Bound, followed by Rachel Chesley.
Yes, this is Ed Bowen, Clallam County Tax Code Area taxpaying citizen of 301. My comments are a little different than what you've been hearing. My comments are in regards to your sales presentation regarding Jefferson County and also the July results of the sales. So OESF sales are questionable for the purpose of the sustainable harvest calculation and arrearage. Jefferson only before you in recent months for common schools. The Clallam OESF is missing representative sales, ones that would support state forest transfer revenue on a larger scale than what's available in Jefferson portion of the OESF. Is this the signs of the time from your sustainable harvest calculation that sales are likely to only occur for Clallam outside of the OESF? For Eastern Clallam taxing districts that receive a positive bump from the SHC? I also want to bring to your attention in your presentation for July, this is actually a suggestion. You'll notice in your package when you get to that, there's a regional sale that attempted to be occurred in Clallam County, referred to as the Powerline Alder, which had no bids. I recommend, if I heard correctly yesterday, the Port of Port Angeles Day was briefed yesterday on what appears to be a shortage of available alder for up and coming businesses in the county opportunities. I would suggest you recommend to your sales staff to link up with the port to see if there is a win-win opportunity here, especially since you had a no bid and they're showing a need for small business in Clallam County that appears to have a shortage of alder. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Rachel Chesley, followed by Evan Wiedersbaum. Rachel, are you there? Make sure you unmute yourself.
Yeah, I show the microphone is self-muted.
Okay. Miss Chesley, if you go up to the top, you can find where you can unmute yourself. All right. I think we're going to move on to Evan Wiedersbaum, and if Miss Chesley is able to speak, then we can bring her back. Evan Wiedersbaum, followed by Peter Goldman.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you perfectly.
Cool. Hello, my name is Evan Wiederspan. I live in South Seattle, and I travel to the Wallace Falls area several times per year, either for hiking on the very popular trails there or passing through to index for rock climbing and other outdoor recreation. And I just want to voice my opposition to the proposed lumber sale of all the acres near the Wallace Falls area. I'm not opposed to logging in general. I think there are ways to sustainably get lumber from our forest for profit, but I'm convinced that the plan that I've seen proposed by Sky Valley Future and similar groups to turn that area into a public park is a much better idea. It'll protect the natural beauty of the area from the proposed clear-cut logging while also providing a revenue stream for nearby cities through increased recreational tourism. Anybody familiar with the trails knows that Wallace Falls gets very crowded. If there were even more trails nearby of similar quality, I mean, just think of how much more tourism and local travel money could come in that could be used for schools. It would be extremely unwise of the board to approve seriously damaging the landscape surrounding the area for short-term profit when an equally profitable and fully sustainable solution has been proposed already. And if the board's not ready to agree to converting this area to state park, I ask that the sale be put on hold until that option can be fully explored. That's all I have to say. Thank you for hosting this.
Thank you. Peter Goldman, followed by Catherine Steenstra.
Good morning, Commissioner and Board. Does everyone hear me? Yes? Okay.
We hear you. Sorry, I muted myself.
Okay. Go ahead. Wanted to make sure. Well, good morning. And I'm Peter Goldman. I'm the director of the Washington Forest Law Center, and I am working with and in several ways representing the local community who has been speaking here. I don't want to repeat a lot of the comments that have been made by my colleagues and my friends, but I do want to make a few points here. Yes, it has been a long road, granted. But I want to assure the board that we have been working with DNR in many ways to try to help solve the DNR's issue here, how to reconcile folks who want this place logged differently and folks who want to just log it normally. We tried an alternative forestry plan. DNR wasn't interested in it. So the law put us in a box. We only had one box to go to, and that was county reconveyance, which is a mechanism in law for counties to take these lands back. That effort didn't start years ago. It didn't start years ago. It actually didn't start until February of this year, when there was 3 members of the council who were interested in looking at it. Now, I want to be really clear. Nothing is more important to the environmental community and many of us than tribal values and customs, etc. But what happened here was just an unfortunate tragedy at the beginning of the reconveyance process. We had 3 members of the council who were very interested in exploring the numbers, exploring the feasibility. But unfortunately, there was a breach of tribal protocol. The tribes were not adequately consulted in advance and now have advanced their opposition to the sale. Honestly, we need more time. We don't have, there's not been time to work on this reconveyance and for the county and for citizens to work with the tribal governments. It is absolutely unfair to characterize what we are trying to do as anti-tribal in any way. It is unfair. In fact, the DNR itself was sued by the Makah tribe a few weeks ago for the land exchange with Merrill and Ring, in which DNR traded parcels, thereby depriving the Makah of their usual and accustomed hunting and gathering rights. So this is not a situation where in any way we should be at odds with the tribes. Our tribal friends, our tribal brethren, we breathe the same air, we care about the same resources. We are asking for an opportunity to bring people together and to use the statutory scheme to allow the county to consider the feasibility of a reconveyance.
3 minutes.
So that's really what I want to say here. This is not a new thing. This is a very recent thing. I want to thank the DNR for working with us over the past few months, and I do believe that there has been transparency. We unfortunately have very different philosophies about these lands. But at the end of the day, I just want to assure the board that we would use any extension of time very expeditiously to try to put the county and the tribes and the community together to try to come out with a win-win solution here. And there are win-win solutions here. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Catherine Steenstra, followed by Julie Langabeer. Do we have Catherine Steenstra there? Again, if you are muted, you can find at the very top. Where
Yes, I'm here.
Perfect. Thank you, Miss Steenstra. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah. I just wanted to thank you for this opportunity to speak. I want to delay the Middle May timber sale. I've lived in Snohomish County for over 49 years, and from Granite Falls to this town of Snohomish, and was privileged and grateful that I had a house right beside the BLM land, which became Lord Hill Park. And I had to move from that house not too long ago to Linwood. And I find Lord Hill Park it was logged for schools. That was part of it had to do, it was to log the land for the schools. And I was so blessed to have that land become a park. And living now in Linwood, which isn't quite as rural as I'd like, I find I go to that park a lot, and I have seen it grow over the years from a few people to thousands of people. You can't even hardly get in the parking lot anymore. It's just a haven for recreation, biking, horseback riding, hiking. People come from all over to that park, and yet there's still, it's 1,400 acres. There's still land for the animals, the trees are there. It's a place of peace and harmony. And I can just see more and more as population grows, because it is, there's so much growth in the the Snohomish County area, that people want that. People need it. It's for their health. I was a teacher, an elementary school teacher, and I take my kids out on field trips into the outdoors. I was an outdoor educator too. And it's one of the most valuable things we can do for education. Logging it for the money to build a building or something, I mean, yes, and there are other ways that could be done. And once you log the land, it's gone, and it won't be able to be used for a generation or two, or whatever that's going to take. So that's a short-sighted goal. So I just know there's other ways, better ways to use that land, and for the people, and for the future of the health, the mental health, the physical health. So badly we need land like that, trails. We need opportunities to get out and be a part of what we really are. We're a part of everything. We're not just little individual islands, and recreate and enjoy and be healed by nature is so important. So please do consider studying this more. Check into the Lord Hill Park, perhaps if you haven't done that, see how they did it and see what the results are. Anyway, I just add my vote to that. Thank you.
So I don't show that Julie is on the call. And I don't show that Kimberly is on the call. So Commissioner, the next person that is active on the call would be Miss Cohen.
Commissioner, you're muted.
Hi, this is Sylvia Cohen. I live in Lake Stevens, Washington.
and I come up to the Salton and Gold Bar areas to hike. I want to first sort of apologize to everyone who is discussing what a long process it has been for you. It hasn't been for me. I only found out about this issue a couple weeks ago, and so I just want to maybe give a voice to a couple of those people like myself who are late to figuring out that this is a thing, but who are still very interested in weighing in and hopefully, choosing the right solution for our county. From that introduction, you can probably tell that I am in support of delaying the timber sale for 6 months. I really just want to demonstrate to the council that there is public interest in another park and a new set of trails. Where I live, we are developing very fast and becoming much more densely populated, and the desire for hiking and parkland is only going up. Every time my family has gone to the hiking trails this summer, they have been extremely crowded. Occasionally we've had to turn around because of COVID risk. And so a new park, a new set of trails, it is wanted, I feel, in my area at least. I would yield, of course, to the stakeholders who are more directly impacted, people closer to the impacted logging area. But from what I have seen, people in Gold Bar are opposed to it. The elected officials have lodged some opposition to the timber sale. And so I just wanted to show up today to tell the council that there is some excitement for reconveyance across the county, and that I hope that the opposition to logging, the excitement for reconveyance is heard, and that a delay of the timber sale is possible to allow for this continued dialogue. And as I said, for the people like myself who are late to the party, to learn more and to weigh in on the future of this area. And yeah, I hope that the dialogue will continue. I hope that the tribes will be able to weigh in as well. I was disappointed to hear that there was a miscommunication there in the beginning of the process. And yeah, I hope that we get a new park. If we don't, I hope that all stakeholders are still heard, and that the health of the forest is considered as well. Thank you.
Thank you. David Luther, followed by Robert Haverlock. Ralph, do you see Mr. Luther on there, or Mr. Haverlock?
Yes, Mr. Luther's on. There you go. He's live now.
Oh, this is David Luther. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Luther.
I want to thank you for hosting this webinar and taking our comments. I think I'm familiar with everyone here on the board, and I support your efforts. I am not an adversary, but I do want to second all of the comments in opposition to this sale. Of course, we are just asking for a delay today, not a decision, and asking that this is not just a rubber stamp maintaining the status quo business as usual. I've lived in the Valley for 40 years, and I have never seen the clear cutting in this area between Salton and Index this bad. And that might not be a word that the logging interests would use, because I think they are kind of blinded by the dollars. And so we are here lobbying in opposition to the power brokers and the moneyed interests that stand to profit from this sale. We're asking that you do the hard work of compromise and listen to our voices, because I don't think we're being listened to by our politicians, certainly by the comments made this morning. There is tremendous opposition in the Valley, up and down the Valley. I feel that every single person who is commenting today in opposition to this probably represents at least 100 other people. Yes, Gold Bar is ground zero for this issue, and of course, Mayor Bill Clem and the Gold Bar Council are in opposition to this. But this does affect the people from Seattle, the people from out of state, the people from other countries who come to see the beauty of the Switzerland of America, and to have that that ugliness of this incredible nonstop clear cut. We occasionally need to take a pause and preserve not just what's been preserved so far, because it's overstressed. People are being funneled to certain areas while so much of this public land is off limits to anyone but the logging interests. I have been told that there's a bitterness in the valley over the loss of logging jobs and logging culture, and there would never be a compromise from that position other than to log. I was told by a regional DNR manager that there was massive clear cuts in the valley back in the 40s, and the timber is now coming to maturity, and it's being harvested just like before. It's being repeated, and I just feel that we have to come up with alternatives. This is a renewable resource, but I will never see the recovery. A 5-year-old kid today will not see the recovery until they themselves have a 5-year-old child. And the response to that would be, well, they benefit from public education, from this sale. We need to find alternatives. It can't be just a rubber stamp business as usual. I tremendously advocate to delay this sale, and I could go on and on, but I'll wrap this up by saying that Gold Bar is the gateway to the Cascades. It's the first thing that people see when they come to this area, and it is ugly. We have to see it. We have to live with the consequences day after day, year after year of what's being done to the valley. And I would suggest that you could look to cities like Wallace, Idaho, and other cities that have successfully transitioned from a resource extraction economy to a recreational economy. There is money there. And I understand, I pay my property taxes, even though I don't have kids in the Sultan School District. And I live in a wooden house. I'm not opposed to logging, but we need to be more sensible about that. The one comment that really resonated with me was win-win. This is not a win-loss. Some people win, some people lose. No, this has to be a win-win. And again, I thank you for the opportunity to make these comments. May the forest be with you. Thank you.
Okay, neither Mr. Haverlock nor Ms. Goldie are on the line anymore.
Okay, next up thank you, Ref. I have Irene Nash, followed by Stephen Ubero.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi, good morning, Commissioner and Board. I'm Irene Nash from Gold Bar, also representing Sky Valley Future. And I'm here to speak in support of a 6-month moratorium on timber sales in the citizen-initiated proposed public park reconveyance area. First of all, I want to address Dan Chaplick's comment regarding the number of people that we have on our petition. We have absolutely over 2,900 people who have signed specifically in support of the cessation of logging in this area and turning it over to a park. Mr. Chaplick, your name was mistakenly included on an early list because you used one of our very early forms in March before we even started talking about a reconveyance to use that form to write in support of the Middle May sale. So this list of over 2,900 signers on the petition is meant for the commissioners and the county council members. If one of them at their discretion would like to share that with you, I encourage you to review that entire list, and you're welcome to vet every single name. Let's talk about the money, because I'm hearing a lot of numbers being thrown around. I think that when people hear the amount of numbers, the amount of money that is spoken in reference to when it comes to logging revenues on public land, many people would assume that it would be thousands of dollars per year per household to make that up. So first of all, let's stop talking about the reconveyance area as though we were talking about all public land that generates timber revenue in Snohomish County. It's a very small portion, but the entire amount of timber revenue, according to Al McGuire, because I did listen to his presentation that he gave at the council last week, could be replaced for all of Snohomish County and for all timber revenue lands by $45 per year per household, and that's with a family of 4. In reality, there are more households in Snohomish County because the average number per household is lower. If you use the exact numbers, the yearly average revenue over the last 10 years could be replaced by each household paying $30.45 per year. Mr. Chaplik mentioned $500,000 a year that they're counting on over the next 4 years to the Sultan School District. And that boils down to something like $1.73 per household per year in Snohomish County. Those are the numbers we are talking about. Russ Sumter, I just wanted to ask you why you were so presumptuous as to apologize on behalf of the public for taking time out of their day and away from their jobs and away from sick relatives to engage in a process they're not familiar with and voice their opinion just because their opinion does not match yours. You, as a member of the school district, do not have the right to apologize for any member of the public for voicing their opinion. And I think it's shameful that you did that.
3 minutes.
Essentially, I just want to point out to you very quickly, times are changing. The fact that you've worked on this project for a long time is not a reason for stating that it's in the public's best interests. Why don't the backcountry horsemen know that equestrian trails and equestrian bridges are part of the citizen-initiated plan? Everything I've heard here today speaks to the need for a time for the correct information to be shared, the governments to speak in about what this proposal really means to them, and for people to have time to comment. And extending it would
Ralph, can you hear me? Are we?
Yes.
We're good? Okay.
Yes.
All right. So Ms. Nat, I mean, 3 minutes were up. I don't know if we lost her, but I'm going to move to Stephen Yebra, who will be our last person for public comment, with the exception of a few names that we weren't able to get on, and I'll check before we get off. Stephen Yebra?
It's Yarbrough. I'm here.
I am so sorry, Stephen. I apologize.
No problem.
Yeah, thank you for your patience with my pronunciation.
Hi, I'm Stephen Yarbrough. I'm a Gold Bar resident since 1997, and I am a member of the City Council since 2017 here in Gold Bar. I recently took a road trip through Idaho, Montana, and Wyoming, and so I had a little bit different perspective when I came back and looked out my window. And it just feels like this hillside is so overprocessed already, and I am afraid it's going to get much worse. There's such a growing momentum now that this idea of reconveyance to a county park has arisen that I think we would be remiss by not giving it some time to grow and giving the public more time to get involved in the process and seeing what we could do with it other than just the clear cuts. So I'm asking that the Middle May sale be postponed along with any other sales in that area. And I am in favor of pursuing the reconveyance for a potential county park and hoping that we can get more time to pursue this. Thank you for the opportunity, Commissioner and board members, for your time today.
Thank you. Ralph, I'm going to go back to the 3 people who signed up who, when called upon, we weren't able to get on, just to see. One was Darlene O'Grady back in the very beginning. Is she still on?
No, she is not on.
Jonathan Bluebow? Bluebow?
No, it's not on.
Okay, last one is Rachel Chesley.
Yes.
Okay. Miss Chesley, if you're there, if you can unmute yourself, we can, you'll be the last person signed up for public comment on timber sale action items.
Okay, I'm on. Can you hear me okay?
Did it, yes. Great job.
Okay, excellent. Thank you so much. Okay, my name is Rachel Chesley. I am a resident of Snohomish County, just live outside of Goldbar. And I am just on here to oppose the sale of the Middle May timber sale and to ask for a moratorium on any further sales in that area for the next 6 months. We have heard a lot of comments from both sides, and I would just say, as a local resident that lives within a couple of miles of the proposed area, many of my neighbors and friends have become involved in this, and I would not say that we're just like a far left-wing environmental group. We're just a community that is asking that we have a say into our public lands, and I appreciate the DNR's taking into account our concerns. And I just want to echo that with the relatively new idea of a proposed county park in the area, I would propose that we would be given more time to explore this with our tribal and community and local leadership and organizations. And we just ask that you guys would take all of these things into consideration as you make your decision. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. With that concludes public comments for timber sales action items, and we will move over.
Commissioner?
Oh, yes?
Hate to interrupt. I had Claire Hughes indicate that she had indicated she wished to speak. Perhaps the registration didn't come through until after the time, and Mr. Pete Rainey.
Okay, let's go ahead
double
and
check the registration. But...
Okay, my apologies if I missed them. Let's move into Claire. I believe. Go ahead, please.
Okay, I just figured out how to unmute it. Thank you. This is Claire Hughes. I'm a Washington. Oh God, this makes me cry. Okay, so I kayak, I recreate, I drive through the Sky Valley 40 times a year. I speak for quite a few people. The beauty is it's being destroyed. If you saw it 40 years ago, which some of you maybe have, the place was gorgeous. And now it's just like this trashed with all the logging. So I'm not going to talk to you about how I understand we have to have logging. You guys have already covered that. We have to have natural beauty. There is a value on natural beauty. We've spent all this time, all these years, trying to put money onto the value of natural beauty. So anyway, when I heard last week that we could have a park, oh my God, like it's a no-brainer to me and to many people. I'm part of the Washington Kayak Club. That's 900 people right there. I drive up, I ski at the path. Do you know how many people do that? How many people stop and spend money in all of the towns on Highway 2? So anyway, that's what I wanted to say. So thank you. So let's get a park. That is so exciting. Oh my God. Okay, thank you.
Can you please state the next name, because I don't have it on my list, who's up to speak?
It's Mr. Pete Rainey.
Hi, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
All right, thank you very much, Commissioner Franz. I live in the eastern part of the Sky River Valley near Index. And as I drive up and down Highway 2, recently I've been impressed by a couple of things. One is that the way things are going, in a few more years, our entire valley is going to be scalped. It will be bald. And other folks have told you how ugly it is right now. The other thing I'm impressed by is the huge increase in number of people who are coming to the Eastern Sky Valley for recreation purposes. Most of them are doing human-powered recreation, and providing more hiking trails would help to meet this actually quite enormous increase in demand. So I am speaking to take more time to consider this timber sale, and also in favor of the reconveyance. I think that there's logging and then there's egregious logging. So egregious logging is all about location, location, location. A good example of egregious logging is the recent clear cut all the way down to Highway 2 in between Gold Bar and Index. If you've driven along there, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. The Middle May and the other areas near Wallace Falls State Park could also qualify as egregious log cutting because their impact on the people who come to enjoy the beauty of the valley is much greater than logging in other areas. About 4 years ago, Commissioner Franz, I had a chance to talk with you at a fundraiser for Susan Del Bene, and I was truly excited about our conversation. I still remember it now. And I thought, this is the person who will lead the DNR into the 21st century. But the way things have gone down with this particular issue, I'm really beginning to scratch my head and saying, has anything really changed? I hope we will take more time to consider this and not have it slip through before anybody knows what's going on. I only found out about this a couple of weeks ago. Thank you.
Commissioner Franz, you are muted.
Mute. Thank you, guys. That was my dress rehearsal. If members of the public and board members, that concludes our public comments for timber sale action items. Next up is timber sales presentation by Kashari Eagle. I'm going to first say too, we had a number of items under the chair report for this board meeting. And what I would like to do before we go to timber sales is to propose moving that to the next board meeting. They are not time sensitive. They're also deserve the time that my team has put in a lot of time into the climate resiliency plan coupled with the legislative priorities. And I like to be able to move that to the next board meeting so we can give its due diligence and time. All right, with that, I'm gonna call forward Kashari Eagle to present with timber sales.
Good morning, board. It feels like it's been a long time in the 2 months since I've last reported to you, but it also feels like last week. I'm here to share with you the timber sale results from our last couple months since we last met, and also to provide you the current proposed sales. That is your action item for today. So in the time since we've met, we've sold 2 months worth of sales. In July, we offered 8 sales for 30.6 million board feet to meet our sustainable harvest and legislative requirements. The minimum bids on those that we had offered were $5.5 million at $180 per 1,000 board feet. In July, we sold 7 of those sales for 30.2 million. The sales that did not sell, one was mentioned by Ed Bowen earlier, a small region sale called Powerline Alder, and a couple of our small sorts off of our sort sales. The total bids, in fact, were $10.5 million at $347 per 1,000 board feet. And on average, we got 2.5 bidders per sale for those sales in July. And the next month, in August, we actually offered 9 sales for 37.8 million board feet. The minimum bids that you had approved for those were $7.9 million. slightly higher at $209 per 1,000 board feet. And in fact, in August, the lumber market has picked up, the log and lumber market. We sold all 9 of those sales. 37.8 million board feet will be added to our total for our sustainable harvest calculations and our annual harvest. The bids on those totaled just under $14 million at $362 per 1,000 board feet after the harvesting costs are deducted and road building costs. We got an average of 2.7 bidders per sale in August. So back in July, that was 93% overbid. As the market improved in August, it was 73% overbid for the sales that we had offered. And do you have any questions about our sold sales in the last couple of months before I move on to our current proposal? I don't hear any, so no one must have unmuted themselves at this point. So our current proposed sales, you've heard a number of comments. I'm sorry, was there a question?
Board members, was there a question there, or was that just a shuffle? Or a kerfuffle? Okay.
Alrighty. Our current proposal has 13 sales in your package for a total of 56 million board feet. The minimum bids total $16.5 million. That would be revenue to the local government and state government services that are provided from our timber sales revenue. The minimum bids average $293 per 1,000 board feet. There are no sort sales included in this proposal, and so that is a stumpage rate that you're seeing. In fact, in the last month, we have seen lumber and log prices climb significantly. Where they're now currently at a record high. Lumber futures closed yesterday at $928 per 1,000 board feet. And that was higher than we've seen in a very, very, very long time. In fact, it was a record. So like all commodities markets, those are pretty volatile and uncertain numbers, but they are up right now. So our package before you has those 13 sales, and I'd like to ask that they all be approved for auction.
Move to approve the October sales proposed for auction.
Board members, it's been moved. One question, one, is there a second? And also we can then leave time for discussion comments, but is there?
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded. Question I have was, is there any comments, questions board members have? Usually we do that prior to a motion, but that you have for Kashari? Okay.
Well, I want to clarify the last 2 that we've had. Is that sale included in this proposal?
Yes, it is. The middle May sale is a part of that total package.
Okay. So I guess I'll weigh in here first, given the amount of public interest on this and how important this is to folks in that valley and obviously to the industry and to the trust beneficiaries. I have listened intently on this particular session and turn my camera off though, because the more of us that are on there, it drags the audio and the video, but I took a lot of notes and been kind of in this conversation, at least I have been, for 3.5 years, and I know it preceded me by maybe a half a decade or longer. So I don't know that I need to rehash arguments. I think it's important that we have heard so respectfully that there are deep, deep divisions in how folks believe we should proceed as a body with respect to our trust fiduciary responsibility, but also we are, as I've said before, in a much larger conversation in this state, in this country, and on this planet. So I guess I'll say 2 things, make a request specifically of the commissioner if it's a possibility. One, I long still for a more detailed process with respect to trust lands, regardless of whether they're for county trust, school board, school district, etc. But where they logically fall in adjacencies to places that already have significant recreation and economies built around recreation, that is a different balance to me than, say, a similar stand in a very rural or remote place that does not have a tradition of recreation. There's an economic benefit that's different for those communities because it's drawing folks to the natural landscape for recreation. So I continue to think there's an effort of this board ahead of us that says, let's remap everything we've done here just to understand where we have lands that are in adjacencies to uses that are probably better for the community on net than harvest. This may be one of those, I don't know. I'm not sophisticated enough to know whether this particular sale that's included here or this larger 5,300 acres has a compromise in it that meets all the interests. So I'll just leave that as the big question. The specific question I have is, I, like probably many of you, am always torn between our fiduciary responsibility and really making sure that trust beneficiaries get the value of their asset, because really the Board of Natural Resources as a policy role helps the Department of Natural Resources really be managers of lands for other folks in many cases, counties, school districts, higher ed, et cetera. So I respect our role and our need to do that. And until there's statutory change and significant policy change, I think that's our primary objective. And I think that's tough. It's tough for me personally. I'm a different person today than I was 10 years ago about these issues. But we have that role to help larger policymakers make different decisions. That being said, I'm also a local control guy. So I understand that Snohomish County is under some transition and maybe had a little bit of a false start in contemplating something different. And I want to respect that. And yet I'm not naive. I understand that is often an argument that folks will always make. But it's a decent argument when there's legitimate transition. There's a council that's moving in a different direction potentially. There are conversations that ought to be had with our private communities and others. And so the concern I have, I suppose, is that while I am in agreement that current statute really compels us to move forward here, I think it is traditional. These things are adopted by the board, and within 30 to 60 days, they get to the mail. And I don't think that's a legitimate amount of time for somebody to do something different who might otherwise be closer to community, in this case, the Snohomish County Council. And yet I don't think 180 days is going to be any different either. I'm moved by that argument that will cause 180 more days. So it needs to move forward one way or the other. What I'd like to ask the commissioner is whether or not she has the capacity at my request, and maybe it needs a formal motion, but to not have this go to sale immediately, but rather 90 days. So that's maybe 30 days or a little longer than the schedule would allow it typically, but on November 30th, essentially 1/4 for the county to figure out if there's a different relationship that they seek. It is their land that's in trust by us, and the county could reconvey it. It sounds like they could do that really any time after this, but I'm comfortable with a small extension that is a legitimate amount of time for the county to consider it. But again, the default here is that I would vote to support this as long as it didn't actually go to sale for 90 days to allow the county to intervene. I'm not suggesting we pull this one out of the packet.
Thank you, Superintendent Rakedal. First, I'll just go directly to your question that you asked, which is specifically whether we have the ability to delay the auction date. Currently on this, if the board approves this timber sale, the auction date is planned for Wednesday, October 28th. That's about 57 days from today. If the middle May's auction is delayed for 90 days, then we would hold the special auction on Monday, November 30th. So for board members and in response to your question, Superintendent Rakedal, I am able to authorize that if the board approves this sale, and I'd be comfortable with doing that. If there was more time that needed by the county to work with the tribes have obviously made their voices quite clear. We've had enormous amount of engagement and community engagement, and I actually, if board members will just give me some moment here. We've heard during public comment the broad group of stakeholders who care deeply about the sale before us today. And it's also clear that many of these stakeholders have very divergent views on how to proceed. Superintendent Rachel and myself came on the board at the same time, and this issue was front and center. With a lot of learning about it and also seeing the site, this is a particular sale's been going on since 2007. And it's clear that we have conflicting opinions on this issue throughout the community. And when stakeholders with a diverse range of views offer thoughtful feedback and their time to help us get the best impact, it is incumbent on myself as the leader of the Department of Natural Resources, the board, the DNR to do our best to find common ground and try to meet as many needs as possible. And I can say confidently that the work has happened in regards to the Middle May sale. Enormous amount of time and community outreach and community meetings and community engagement occurred. Obviously, you heard today some people weren't aware of it, but there was significant notice and actually even charrettes done to help design and reconfigure the sale, which is why it's called the Middle May sale, because it changed dramatically from the first sale, which was the Singletary sale when I came in. In my 4 years as commissioner, this timber sale has by far had the most amount of process and community input. Years of time, staff time, board time, stakeholder time have gone into planning a sale that meets the needs of the beneficiaries, protecting habitat, creating low impact recreation opportunities, and critically honoring tribal treaty rights, which is paramount importance to myself and to the agency. We've had multiple community conversations that brought together those conservationists, recreation advocates, all different types of recreation advocates, beneficiaries, and local tribes. And I have personally walked the sale myself, the sale site, as well as even farther into the Reeder foothills. And you obviously were able to experience at the retreat last month elements of the design of the sale, the management, as well as some of the rec plan. And so I want to just echo that this has been a collaborative process. The sale reflects that collaboration. It is not perfect to everyone. Every stakeholder has had to give up something as a result, and it has been improved by this process. And as a result, now better accommodates both recreation and conservation and tribal interests that they brought forward. In fact, just to provide that context, community feedback that DNR received, we now will manage a 70-acre forested corridor of spotted owl habitat. We will be able to increase access for trail building, allowing DNR to connect the Snohomish County Trailhead with Wallace Falls State Park a decade sooner and for millions of dollars less. This will also increase access for first responders and search and rescue in this area, which is an issue. And for the local community, the sale will generate more than $1.8 million for beneficiaries like the Sultan School District and the local fire district. As you all know, the timber harvests meet the habitat conservation plan requirements, the sustainable harvest plan. And I think the couple key points I just want to close with is, one, we manage these lands on behalf of the county. It is critical to, again, recognize that we manage these lands on their behalf in the junior taxing districts. DNR works closely with the county to ensure that we're meeting the needs of the communities. I personally met with Snohomish County council members and County Executive Summers to discuss this specific sale numerous times over the 3.5 years I've been in this position. But in addition to that, even more recently with new county council members that have come online, had questions, concerns, in trying to help meet the needs of the public, their constituents, and junior taxing districts. And I've been clear every single one of those times. If Snohomish County wishes to reconvey this land, we will work with them on that process. We stand ready to meet their needs and their requests. In fact, in 2017, we responded to the council's request for reconveyance of 25 acres of the original timber sale. While the reconveyance did not go through, the council reversed course. The Middle May timber sale then still preserved that 25 acre as a forested corridor between the county's parking lot and the Wallace Falls State Park. And as it pertains to the sale today, the Snohomish County Council has been very clear to us The council has not requested a delay of today's actions, and the council has made clear it does not want to pursue reconveyance. That being said, I am comfortable with the proposal of postponing the sale for 90 days to give more time to the county to work with our tribes to be able to see if in this final 90 days they're able to get or secure an agreement. I will say we have to listen to tribal voices. In addition to county, our tribes are critical, and it's of paramount importance to me, my value base of honoring their treaty rights. All across Washington State, myself and DNR look at tribes as leaders as the protection of natural resources. We work regularly with the Tulalip tribes and other tribes who traditionally use the lands of the Reeder foothills, as well as our other public lands. And we have MOUs with our tribes to be able to ensure that we can still honor their tribal treaty rights. We work with them to protect cultural resources, allow for traditional uses of the land, while working the forest to support our fiduciary responsibility. And my belief is we cannot ignore that the Tulalip tribe unequivocally opposes the reconveyance of these lands because of the effect it would have on their treaty rights on open and unclaimed lands. They also support the Middle May sale and working forests for their ability to create local jobs, keep local landscapes healthy, provide the habitat for plants and wildlife. It's a fundamental belief of mine. We can't lift up tribal voices when it suits our purposes and then ignore them when it's inconvenient. And I will always make as paramount importance our tribal treaty rights and respect of our First Nations. This isn't the end of the process, as you know. And I think that we've really worked tirelessly, and I have to hats off to the DNR staff who time and time again have showed up and been listening and working collectively and collaboratively with each one of you, as well as local government officials, as well as the diverse constituents. And I think the moment is for us to make a decision on this. And again, I support moving and will follow through with the 90-day delay of the timber sale to move it to November 30th if the board approves the vote for timber sales. But absent clear direction from the county or tribes, otherwise, past that date, I don't believe it makes sense to delay the timber sale. With that, I will move forward. If there's any other comments, questions by board members on this issue.
This is Commissioner Pete. Please go ahead. I'll do it after you.
All right, Dr.
Hi.
Oh, sorry, Jim, go ahead.
Just to clarify then, so if you delayed as Commissioner Wright or Superintendent Reichdahl requested, the sale would actually have it happen at the end of November, that would be the sale date, or would be after that date?
No, the timber sale, again, it was proposed 57 days. Usually we would do the timber sale 57 days from today, which would be October. In respect to Superintendent Reichdahl's request, I would move it to November 30th, which would give 90 days from the point of order.
Okay, thank you.
I was simply going to comment that, oh, am I? Yeah, I'm unmuted, right? You can hear me? Yes. That I appreciate Superintendent Reichdahl's suggestion, and just want to underscore my understanding as I've come to be part of this conversation about the importance of recognizing that it's a really difficult choice for the community as the community is experiencing transitions and change in a variety of ways, and that we as a board really do need to listen to the community and through the democratic process to the representatives of that community. And I appreciate the suggestion and Commissioner France, your approach to giving that community the opportunity to explore if there has been some sort of miss an opportunity for the community to take a step that's positive in finding a different kind of a win-win. I'm not sure that, I know that, and I also want to just thank the staff for the retreat and for the work that they did in preparing that information about the work that they've done in trying to balance all the interests.
This is Commissioner Peach. I'd like to share the thought that in my experience as executive director for the Quitt tribe, working closely with 4 sovereign nations, the issue of the tribal rights cannot be resolved in a 90-day period. Further, I support strongly the decision that's been made by the county council, and it is our fiduciary responsibility. We must consider it as paramount in this decision. The solution that I do recommend is that the board consider changes to our forest management policies that deal with, as an example, delays in timber sales and potentially legislative action in collaboration with sovereign nations addressing their concerns. The issue that I bring to your attention is that there's been comment on change in leadership at the county council. From the sovereign nation's perspective, what happens when that same perspective changes in the future and denies their rights? So I'm not sure how to approach the solution in a short period of time, but do not support a delay in the timber sale.
I just wanted to say Superintendent Rockwell said it quite nicely, probably better than I can say it. This is a very difficult decision, and you look at our roles and responsibilities as board members, and I appreciate the comments, the public comments on both sides of the equation, and I can empathize with both sides. But I agree with Commissioner Peach. I think a decision needs to be made, and I would not support delaying the decision going forward.
Just to be clear, I think that the proposal is not to delay the decision, but to delay the action following the decision, which is
That's
what
right.
I would support. I
Yeah,
would not support delaying the decision.
Yeah, just to be clear, again, everyone knows the county at any point in time has the ability to move for reconveyance. And in fact, even if the timber sale happens, they can still move for reconveyance, whether it's just the area of the timber sale or whether it's the area even larger, as they have been discussing, 5,300 acres. So right now there's a motion to recommend all sales be approved for auction. In that, Middle May is in there. Superintendent Rakedahl proposed instead of, if the board approves the sales for auction, that instead of doing 57-day, which would be a typical time period for us doing a timber sale, we would add an extra period of time that roughly is 90 days, so a little more than 30 days on. So that the sale would now happen on November 30th versus October 27th.
That is correct. So it's really an additional 30 days as opposed to 90 days tacked on to the normal process.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Now, and just so people know, the reason it takes us a period of time, we don't go immediately to auction tomorrow, is we have SEPA, we have a standard protocol and process where we have to get the paperwork in order. We have to go through the SEPA appeal process, and that timeline, or that time period set by law, and then that's usually around that 57, 60-day window. This would add an extra 30 days. We would just move it to the next timber sale period of November 30th.
And the reason I'm structuring it this way in my mind, and I'm no expert at this, is this has been discussed for a lot of years, and pulling it out of the package doesn't give anyone certainty. This effectively says, county, we respect that this is really your determination and you have 90 days to tell us if we're doing something different. And if not, it proceeds. It won't take another action by the board. It's decided right now that it's in the package. It's just a matter of when it goes to sale. And so it puts some urgency on both sides to try to come together and figure out if there's something different they're going to do. And if not, by default, this moves forward.
Yeah,
So
Jim.
Commissioner Frank.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Commissioner Peach. You go ahead, and then I will go to Jim Cahill. I'm learning still how to call on people and see.
Yeah, it's difficult, isn't it? So,
well, especially
if I understand. Yeah, well, if I understand, this has been a friendly amendment to my motion, and I would like to share that I do not support the amendment.
So I just want to be clear, Commissioner Peach, are you moving to amend the motion to allow for the 30-day add-on so that the timber sale would happen on November 30th? I want to make sure I heard you clearly.
No, I am not. I'm in support of my original motion to proceed with the proposed sales in October and oppose any amendment.
Thank you. I hear you now clearly. Jim Cahill, please. I think you're next.
Yeah, I just wanted to say I appreciate the proposal. I think there's a lot of passion on both sides here. I think allowing a little more time for the counties and tribes to just talk about the issues and see if something can be worked out is good. But this time frame won't delay probably the actual harvest next summer, and still a lot of times for the project to move forward if it is an agreement can't be reached. So I appreciate this effort.
Board members, any other comments, questions? All right.
Commissioner Franz, sorry,
yeah.
I did not state it as a motion. I can, but I was testing on whether or not, because we don't normally determine sale dates, you do. The underlying motion is still before us, and if you are committed to that delay, I don't think there's a different action here. It's really up to you if you want a formal motion here or not. I can propose it as one.
Yeah. So board members, I am comfortable with setting the date for the timber sale as November 30th, which would be 90 days. And adding that additional time on it to see if the county and the tribes could work together and the county's position changes. So I'm comfortable with that. I obviously have heard from at least one board member that they are not in support of that. I don't believe it needs a motion because it is something I can do under my authority. Board members, I turn to you though if you'd like to do something different.
I recognize your authority, and I call for the question.
You know, I'm gonna do this because I think it probably puts me in a pretty awkward, difficult. I try to work with each and every one of you and respect each and every one of you. At this point, I would like to have, if there is an amendment to the motion to request a set specific timber sale date, which I don't think has ever been done under as I've been in this position. I think it would be probably good to do that and we take a vote on the amendment and then on the underlying motion. I'm trying to remember my Robert's Rules of Orders really quickly right now. Go ahead, if anybody.
Well, I'm just trying to clarify. I'm willing to do that, but I don't want to put you in a difficult position. If this is your decision by authority and you've determined that you're willing to do that, it doesn't need a motion. So I'd rather hear from other members if they want something more formal about this, or if they're comfortable with the commissioner's determination. She will in fact grant 90 days.
All right, I appreciate
It was the commissioner's decision.
Jim Cahill, you as well? Comfortable with me making the decision?
Yes.
Okay. Dr. Brown?
I'm comfortable with you making the decision, but if we have to vote to provide the indication that you need that we're supportive, I'm happy to do that too.
Okay. Commissioner Peach, I think I've heard you how you would not support an amendment. I know where you stand unless you want to say anything more in addition.
Now, I recognize your authority and ask you to use it judiciously, but I do call for the question on the motion that I've tabled.
Thank you so much. All right, with that, the motion has been made, seconded, and called to recommend all sales be approved for auction. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Great. I believe we had 6 ayes. So with that, okay, great. I think that concludes. Oh, any comments? I think that concludes the timber sales. And as I said, given we're at time now, I would like to move the chair report of climate resilience strategies and the legislative priorities off to the next board meeting. As I know we all have enormous amount of work. I want to thank each one of the board members first for your time and energy. I know this has been a long process and a lot of work and a lot of people you have heard from. I think we've had a very robust discussion, and frankly, I think this was democracy really at its best in a lot of ways. We didn't make everybody happy, but I think we did serve democracy well. And I want to give a shout out to the team at DNR who have time and time again worked very, very hard on many, many issues, including this one. A lot of time and energy has gone in and outreach. Superintendent Rakedal, just one point you made on recreation and the conflict. We are having, as I know COVID has helped, it sort of made all of us forget what all the things we're all working on because we're sort of all in response mode. My heart goes out to you as I know you are working to identify ways that we can get our kids back to school and do it in a safe way. And to our professors and deans, you know, my son is graduate from high school, is headed to Northwestern. I know, don't fault me, but he's super excited and it was just called off 3 days ago. So it's a heartbreaking time. Although I never thought I'd have all 3 boys back home, although my food budget is definitely depressed at this point. But I want to just say on the recreation, one of the things we were going to be talking about and we're working on over the next year is the recreation policy. You may remember that presentation. And I think that's a perfect opportunity for us to dive into this question and some of the things that have risen as a part of the Middle May sale as well as others so that we can get your questions answered and we can have, I think, a robust discussion. And I'm looking forward to having that with the board and with, I know, the DNR team as well. So thank you, everyone. Be safe, be healthy. I appreciate your commitment and take care. See you next month. All right, bye-bye.
Everybody.